College football fans, welcome back to the College Ball Show. I'm Chris, he's Marshall, and we're here to discuss everything involving college football on the field mostly. We do, kind of get off the field once in a while. We'd like to remind people that the college football regular season is the best out of any sport. There's no argument, just getting that out of the way. Well, we had ourselves an entertaining week. We had a top-tier team who some people thought in Oregon or Utah, whichever, that would be whoever won that game would maybe, be able to jump over Alabama potentially. They went down swinging in Week 13. ASU looked like the team they did when they were 4-1 back in early October. A couple of interesting games. Georgia just snuck by A&M. Ohio State had a big lead. Penn State made it interesting down the stretch. So did TCU. They played damn good against Oklahoma. Couple other items out there to talk about. There was a couple upsets, no doubt about it. We'll definitely get to covering, recapping all what was Week 13. But then Week 14, there is a lot. A couple of weeks ago, this may not has looked as good, but Cincinnati, Memphis, that's a huge game inside that conference. We always know, Ohio State, Michigan is a huge game. On the road, this is their first big test, I believe, on the road. I don't think that Wisconsin-Ohio State game was at Wisconsin, if I remember correctly. So that's Michigan would love to play spoiler there, as would Auburn and Alabama. It'd be interesting to see Alabama against this squad. And it's funny without, Tua. It's pretty funny, though. Saban's like, pretty sure this is probably the best team we've faced all year long. It's like, oh, really? Huh, weird. I could think of something. Wisconsin, Minnesota, that's for all the marbles in the Big Ten West. That's got me all jazzed up. College game day is coming to Minneapolis for the first time. Oklahoma State. A lot of ranked versus ranked. Like I said, it is rivalry week, so anything can happen as we make our way to these conference finals, the semifinals, bowl season, and ultimately the national championship. So we're definitely going to break this down. If this is your first time listening to the College Ball Show, of course we predict. We do some recap from the week before, but we're also all over the betting, betting, the gambling aspects. We call it betting line banters. We'll pick up sets of the week. We'll try to go against the spread and see if a team, maybe, underdogs by 18 can fit under that spread. Over-unders. We like to talk about a variety of things. And we also feature the crafty, crappy pick of the week, which I emotionally picked last week. And I did let the audience know that, so they should have went the opposite way. I did tell them that. And sure enough, this isn't basketball. This is football. And you'll know what I mean but when we get there. But like I said, if this is your first time listening to the College Ball Show, welcome. It streams live right here on blogtalkradio.com/Rope-It-Over-Radio. It's the home base. But, to listen to this show under the Rope-It-Over-Radio podcast, you can find it at Apple Podcasts, Player FM, Spreaker, Stitcher. We're also part of the Grueling Truth Sports Podcast Network. That can be found everywhere, including iHeartRadio. And the show's available on Spotify. You can use your Siri, Alexa through TuneIn or Spotify to find it. While you're at it, head on over to thegruelingtruth.net. That's thegruelingtruth.net. They got a great sponsor, betnow.eu. That's betnow.eu, promo code TGT. And one more thing. If you're thinking about cutting the cord, or maybe you cut the cord and you're just not happy, you just want some sort of basic cable, I think I got something for you here. AT&T TV Now, it's cable streaming. You could try the 7-day free trial. It's a day, but there's 6 more after that. But the plans, they start as low as $50 a month. Right now, that's with HBO included. There's no annual contracts. You can stream it anywhere. They do have the cloud DVR, which is clutch for a variety of things, including sports. Try AT&T TV Now. It's streaming cable. I'm going to go ahead and bring in my co-host, Marshall. We went to a broadcasting school back in the day. He now resides in the South, all the way straight down, really, straight down a highway, all the way down in Tejas in Texas. What's going on, man? It's going to snow here really, really soon. That Wisconsin Minnesota game, I almost said Michigan. What the hell am I thinking? It looks like Friday, Saturday, and Sunday snow is in the forecast. So something tells me we're going to have a nice little blizzard during that game. But it won't be like some random team. I mean, it's not like the Badgers are going to be used to that. And actually, I hope it's not windy. That's my big thing because, if it's in the 30s and it's snowing, it could be rain, sleety with the wind. And we want to pass the ball. We got these two great wide receivers. But anyway, how the hell are you, sir?
I'm pretty good. I had a heartbreaking basketball loss. I could go on with about 7 issues from calls I had in the game go against me, but one of my girls got fouled with no time left on the clock. We're down 2. She goes to the free throw line to shoot 2 free throws, switches the first one, back edge of the rim for the second one, lose by 1 point.
Ouch.
That you just as a coach, I'm thinking, through like 6 things I did wrong and 5 things. I mean, it's just one of those things where it was in my head for all Saturday night. But when you love sports and you coach, some days you're going to win those games, some days you're going to lose, and you just have to get over it. Unfortunately, I think I'm about to make history. Okay, I normally always have. Sometimes I have a rant like to start off the show.
All right,
but we've never gone Ivy League to the best of my knowledge. But what in God's name happened in the so this Ivy League coverage, like ESPN is talking about this game on College Game Day, like they're giving the Harvard Yale game shout outs and credit, like they're trying to make the college football of Ivy League seem respectful. But during halftime, they have like 75 kids come on the field and protest like freaking global warming or some shit, and they like delay the game for an hour. And the cops just like walked out of the field. They're like, "Oh, we're just gonna chill here, I guess, since we're like nice, rich, smart kids. We're not gonna make them leave." Like the game almost finished in the dark, and there wasn't a lot of stadium lights. Like, who the hell can you imagine, Chris, if this weekend at Auburn, Alabama, in the middle of the game at halftime, 80 Auburn
That's not
fans,
a good example though, because come on now. Come on now. Even Trump got, cheered at that Auburn game. So I don't know if the Auburn stuff is a good, like Alabama, that doesn't fly for numerous reasons, but go on.
So, okay, let's say hypothetically, if at the Arizona State game this upcoming weekend, 80 students go sit on the field in the middle of halftime and just chill there with signs and like holding hands and just kneeling. This doesn't happen. I'm just at a loss of words for like, which was like their biggest game of the year. I forget who won. The game was like double overtime, 53-49, a hell of a game or something like that. But you had a 45-minute delay of a peaceful protest in the middle of a football game. It's like, no wonder you don't ever get any respect for your damn football team. Your students are having a damn protest in the middle of the game. All right.
Well, it worked. It worked because we're talking about it.
I guess.
I didn't even know about it, to be honest with you.
It was on SportsCenter.
Well, I don't always watch SportsCenter, I'll tell you that. But no, I just didn't see it.
It was like a top 3 story on Saturday night. I'm like, you got to be shitting me. But now that I have my rant over of worthless Ivy League football, and those fans should just stay in school and not even go to games, that's over. Let me talk about a game where actually I enjoyed watching football, where there was no protest. And I actually was texting you. I was going to text you updates, but I've learned in our decade of friendship or so that occasionally I'm one to text updates while you're at work and you have a DVR, so I don't want to become the man who spoils it. I was wanting to text you about the Oregon game. I mean, talk about just a hell of a effort by Herm Edwards. At the start of 2 years ago, you and I were like, okay, they hired Herm. And we were kind of like lukewarm. It's all right. Herm's a hell of a guy. He's a good motivational speaker. You always talk about how the guy's a great recruiter. He's got the personality. Last year, they had a good year. This year, they come out. Right. They start out, I believe, 4-1. Things are looking good. Recently, they'd lost 4 in a row. So you're thinking, okay, there's no way in hell a team who's lost 4 games in a row, who hadn't led a football game in a quarter since like October 16th, would beat the Oregon Ducks. And they just came out and played football, Chris. That was a hell of a game. We've given credit all year to Arizona State's. They basically have, I believe, a true freshman quarterback and a freshman running back. And, man, the future's bright for those guys because those kids are clearly talented as hell. Now, I know if you look at the scoreboard, you're like, okay, well, that was turned out to be a pretty close game. I know that Arizona State went into the prevent defense, which can prevent you from winning. Right. And Oregon put together, like, 2 1-minute drives and made it close all of a sudden. But just massive props to Arizona State. You'd lost 4 in a row. Things could be looking down. Kids could quit on the year. Now you beat Oregon. You clinch a bowl game for the second year in a row. And if you're Oregon, man, you fell asleep. You're a team that had a great defense all year. The quarterback everyone is in love with. For the first 70% of the game, that quarterback was having a brutal day. The defense was getting exposed on a couple of big plays. And let's just give shout out to Herm Edwards, man. He put together a hell of a performance. I believe they were a 14.5-point dog, and they won a game, and just good for them, Chris. And I'm happy because it takes Oregon out of the playoff picture, or it makes their chance of making the playoff picture like 1.2%. So I'm okay.
Yeah, they're on. I mean, they're gone. It's over. They'll put Bama in there before that, unless Bama loses. But actually, maybe not because of 2 losses, right? But that was a wild fourth quarter, dude. That was wild. I mean, they had just gone up a couple minutes into the fourth quarter, 21-7. Arizona got up to 24-7. And like you said, just bang, bang. Next thing you know, it's 24-21. But then on the flip side, it was bang, bang because they made it right back, stretch it right back to 31-21. So that was key, man. That was a big, big win. I was looking at that, and I thought, if that defense can play like it was playing earlier, and if they can move the ball, and, I just looking at that, and, that freshman quarterback, man, he 22 of 32, 408, 3 touchdowns. And then, of course, Herbert's, 2 interceptions in the fourth quarter was basically the end-all, be-all. Like you said, big, big win, no doubt about it. And it's back to the drawing board, that's for sure, for Oregon. They turned the ball over at crucial times. And, I mean, when you look at it, 36 minutes, almost 37 minutes of clock, just eating up that clock by the Sun Devils.
Yeah, and that's just got to be such a deflating loss. I mean, with how things have been going, you're looking to play Utah coming up, which would be a hell of a win. Assuming you beat Arizona State, you beat your rival Oregon State. Now you have a legit chance of making a presence in the Final Four, and you blew it away. But it is what it is, Chris. That's fair is fair. Now let's just go over the very basic parts. LSU beat Arkansas by 36 points, so they hung in there. And Georgia beat Texas A&M 19-13, so they're still hanging in there. But again, you mentioned Ohio State, Penn State. Better than I thought. I'm happy I didn't bet the game, because if I was going to make a bet, and I believe I said on the podcast, I would have taken Ohio State to cover. Obviously, you go into halftime up 14-0. You got to be feeling pretty good as an Ohio State fan. If you bet the Buckeyes first half, which I think they're now 10-1 on the year for first half bets, that would have been a good deal. But the full game bet, Chris, didn't quite happen. What was your take on the Ohio State-Penn State game? Obviously, Ohio State got the job done. It maybe wasn't their most convincing win of the year, but at this point, that truly doesn't matter for style points. Ohio State finds a way again, and Penn State, man, they just had a brutal stretch of a schedule that you can't always be on your A game every week.
Yeah, that's true. I really felt like the turnovers, are what got them back into that game. But 229-99 rushing the ball, dude. 27-15 on the first downs. Once again, major clock control. It's one of those kind of misleading ones. Yeah, the score was 21-17 at one point, but it was also 21-0. So I think it's a pretty damn good display because this is the best team they've gone against probably. You could either make an argument Wisconsin or Penn State. I guess some people will say Cincinnati, and maybe
Florida
that,
Atlantic.
But you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Cincinnati's pretty damn good, and they blew them out, and they blew out Wisconsin. But this is probably their best opponent. So, and it was a big game. It was a big game, and it's much needed, obviously. And so I thought it was pretty solid just to get that W. But I did like this. I liked what I saw out of that backup coming in as well, and I liked what I saw of the Penn State defense, standing up. But they were right with them. But when it was 21-0, I was like, okay, dude, this one might get ugly. And sure enough, a couple of turnovers. I mean, having Chase Young back, turns out that's a pretty good deal. Turns out he's pretty good. He had 9 tackles, 4 of them, for losses, 3 sacks, forced fumbles. I mean, the dude was just everywhere. And then you got Dobbins on the other side. We mentioned him, how he's the only guy to keep going 1,000 yards so many seasons in a row, starting with your freshman year. He had 36 freaking carries for $157 and 2 touchdowns. Both those guys aren't seniors, by the way. So that was damn impressive, man. So both sides of the ball, but yeah, I mean, the dude coming off the edge, you can't even keep up with them. I mean, he's just so quick, and he'll duck under you. And once he gets a hold of you, he's got a hold of you. You're not going anywhere. So, overall, Ohio State cruising. I mean, that Michigan game, though, it is a bit of a track game, and the rivalry stuff is real in college football. And as we know, I mean, it has to be like a deep-rooted, really meaningful rivalry in the NFL to really mean something to the players. There's not many of them if you think about it. You know what I mean? And that's completely opposite with the college, because you have several rivals, but this one goes back long, long ago, and just sitting there in Michigan, nobody's talking about them, this, that, and the other, but if they knock them off, I mean, talk about, it may extend Harbaugh. No, but you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I just wouldn't count them out all the way. So that'll be interesting. But in other action, the Minnesota Gophers started. I liked how they bounced back, came right out 21-0, and then kind of just sat on the lead and just played ball control. Morgan played a damn good game, but he did throw. He just misread something and just messed up a little bit. We dropped the punt as well. That was a fumble. Kind of made the game go, whatever at the end. But it was really about just securing that win. They had taken their first loss. How are they going to come back? And the Gophers came out. And Bateman, Johnson had the 1,000-yard or 100-yard game. And Bateman had 3 touchdowns, and all of them, he had the twinkle toes on the sidelines, Chris Carter style, or 2 out of 3, I think. And for the first time in Minnesota history for the Gophers, which, if you don't know it, actually, they have a storied history. It just hasn't been in 60 years, which is a long time. But this is the first time they had 2,000-yard receivers in the same year. Both Bateman and Johnson are over 1,000 with 1 game left. So they kept it rolling. They got a huge game coming up. Of course, we'll preview that. At TCU, we said that they got a chance to sneak under that spread against Oklahoma. And Oklahoma looked like they were going to win by a lot more than 4 points there for a second. Turns out 28-24, TCU played them tough.
I'm actually stunned right now. I'm going to make a quick side note about Ohio State's player, but I'll go to Oklahoma first, because I can't believe the numbers I'm looking at. For Jalen Hurts, I don't know if Lincoln Riley's trying to kill the guy, if he's trying to take away his NFL career, but he ran the ball more than he threw it. He was 11 of 21 with 145 yards passing, and he ran the ball 28 times for 173 yards. I don't quite get that. Man, shit, if you're Jalen Hurts, I hope you're able to stay healthy against Oklahoma State for like the Big 12 title game. I know we've hit on a lot this year, and it's not really a huge breaking down the game point. It's more of X's and O's thing. But Chris, why the hell is Jalen Hurts running the ball 28 times a game? I don't. Are the running backs that trash? Like, I don't quite get it. And again,
they don't run the option. Last I checked, they're not a triple option team.
And this is the third game now where you've almost blown a lead and cost yourself a win. This happened with Iowa State. It happened with Kansas State where they lost. Happened again. I hope Jalen Hurts doesn't get hurt, because he is doing more for his team than most quarterbacks are expected to. I guess I'm going on a little bit of a rant here, but I've never seen something like this. You throw the ball 21 times.
Rant. This is good.
This is much better than Harvard Yale. I apologize. I flipped my rants around, bastards in Ivy League. But and again, I have no personal attachment to the man, but I hope he stays healthy. Shit, most running backs in college don't run the ball 28 times. And shit, he got 173 yards. That's a phenomenal day of running against one of the smartest defensive-minded coaches in the Pac-12, maybe in the country. So credit to you, sir. But I bet if we were to look back, and I'll maybe do this for the next show, if you were to look back at Michael Vick's Va Tech days, I think you'd be hard-pressed to find Michael Vick with a 28-run game. I'm not saying the guy wouldn't put up 173 yards. Vick could do that in like 4 plays. But I should text my Oklahoma fan and friend and just see what he thinks. I'm just blown away at this offense. And I mean, you have talented receivers. You normally have a very talented offensive line. I know your defense isn't, great, but that's not really developing how you should call plays. But another win. But this is like the third and fourth game, Chris, where you get a lead early and then you almost blow it, and you just look in the second half where all you're doing is run your QB, and I just don't quite get it. But
I hear
Oklahoma, they won the game though. I mean, they held on. Credit to them. But I'll be curious to see. Next year if we're back to a regular quarterback. I mean, Kyler Murray didn't run this bunch. Baker never did. I guess that's just the game plan, man. It's been working, and hopefully he guts it out for the next week, because they got to play Oklahoma State. I'm sure he's going to have 20 plus carries again. Then you got the Big 12 title game and then another big bowl game. But whatever. Enough of the rant. Good win for them. And TCU, they've just had a brutal year, Chris. They've had injuries. They've had quarterbacks get hurt. You've lost a ton of tight games. You lost to Baylor a couple weeks ago in overtime. Now you lose to Oklahoma by 4 points. It just hasn't quite been the way for them that they were hoping for. Speaking of other teams that are still in the hunt for the Final Four, I know Oklahoma's still kind of peeking out the back window there, but Utah.
Ohio State, real quick. Ohio State. Something about Ohio State you're going to go back to.
Yeah, you're right. Thank you.
And I got some stats on Hurt too before you go.
Sure. Okay, we have for Ohio State. The more I watch football, and like just to tie the NFL and college here together, there really is a certain presence of how certain teams in the NFL will try to help out a defensive end. It appears that some teams in college or pro just say, hey, dude, you're my left tackle. Good luck. Go do it. And sometimes I'm blown away where in a game like Khalil Mack will destroy a team because, it's a one-on-one deal. So my point
you just had to bring him up, didn't you? You just had to bring him up.
My point to tie this together is the fact that, I'll be curious to see how, like, for example, Michigan will defend him this week, or when they make the Final Four, whether it be LSU, Clemson, or something, because some coaches just have the old school mindset of, okay, your job is to block the guy, here you go. But I think with the presence he has, he already set the Ohio State sack record this year, and he missed 2 games. I think you got to give like the extra blocker or the running back that's going to chip, or, some strategy of the way you roll out the pocket. Because I think if you have the stubborn mindset approach, Chris, this guy's going to make a strip sack in a game that could have flipped the game or make your quarterback feel pressured. So it'll be kind of fun to see how teams defend him. And I know this is kind of an X's and O's deal, but good DNs can disrupt the whole offensive game plan. So I'll be curious to see how people defend Young as the games go on this year.
Yeah, you're right. And not all these tackles are going pro, right?
Oh yeah, especially in
So
college.
you got this
No
dude
doubt.
who is going pro and very high in the draft, and they got to try to protect this dude as a 22-year-old, 20-year-old that may not even see the pro ranks ever.
Sure.
And you got this
Exactly.
dude who's going top 3. You know what I mean? It's pretty
Yeah,
scary.
it is. It's tough. And I
Yeah.
get that, like, okay, well, we can't change our offense. Okay, well, maybe you don't normally have an extra tight end, but your quarterback's going to be running for his life the whole damn day, so you may want to rethink that plan. But
Yeah, when you're just going to roll out to the left side every time? That's like in boxing. Like, yeah, go over there. Then we can just crush you, dude. It's like you want a guy to go right to your power hand. Speaking of power hand, that Wilder right hand was disgusting, by the way, on Saturday night. But anyway, back to Jalen Hurts. This dude, so he's got 1,074 yards rushing, right?
Jesus.
31-49, so over 3,000 passing yards. So he's the third player in FBS history with 3,000 yards passing and 100 yards rushing through 11 games. And the other two, Manziel and Lamar Jackson, and he did it back-to-back years, 16 and 17, of course. So, man, I mean, that's pretty crazy, man. Just wanted to add that in. But you were going to go to Utah, or you were going to kind of jump around for the rest of the top 25 so we can kind of wrap some of this stuff up.
Yeah, just, as we mentioned, Oregon didn't take care of business, but Utah keeps the Pac-12 in contention for a Final Four spot. Utah just did take care of business. They beat Arizona 35-7. Utah, I know they don't get the coverage that most teams do, but they're playing about as good as football as they can. They're maybe not quite to the skill level of a Bama, Ohio State, or an LSU like that, but they're probably just a step below, and they're really doing well. Bama beat the crap out of Western Carolina 66-3, so that really doesn't say much as to whether Tua being gone or not's really an issue. Purdue was close with Wisconsin for a bit, but they ended up losing 45-24. I wish, for the sake of your Gophers, that Purdue could have beat Wisconsin, which would have made the Big Ten a little easier for you boys to clinch. And I love saying this, as always, Texas lost another football game. the Baylor Bears, we were wondering, like, hey, dude, you got smacked in the mouth 28-3. The ultimate Super Bowl jinx came back to hurt you. But they came out that game and just smoked Texas. And if you're Texas fans, I'm not one, so I can make fun of this. They got to be pissed. There was so much hype going into this year about how they're 9 or 10 win team, going to contend for the Big 12. Injuries happen, whatever's happened. But, right. Tom Herman, the great coach we all hear about, you're 4-4 in conference this year, sir. So times are hard, Texas. Nice bounce back win by Baylor. And that really gives Baylor a good chance now to win out this week and then play Oklahoma for a Big 12 title. Yeah,
I mean, Ezekiel Elliott in college makes any offense coordinator look good, but we won't get into that. Jonathan Taylor rushed for 200 yards again, the 12th time. It's like I'm on repeat with this dude. 2-2-2. And, man, am I kind of frightened him coming in to, the bank. We'll see how that goes. Oh, there was that Iowa-Illinois. Illinois much improved this year, looking solid. Obviously, you got that Wisconsin game. Had some tighter games as well, 19-10. Iowa did close it out, but that was a tight game. Speaking of tight games, Cincinnati, every week almost, they're in a tight game, 15-13 over Temple. Oklahoma State. West Virginia is actually showing a little bit of pride. They're not winning a bunch, but they're showing some pride down the stretch.
First-year coach.
Yeah, 20-13 Oklahoma State did get it, but and same with Kansas is still showing pride. Not Arizona State, but Iowa State 41-31. As we know, they don't play as well when they're ranked, so we'll see what happens this week. Navy beat SMU. That was under the barn burner section, 35-25. That was a minor upset anyway. And USC in the top 25, they can finish in the top 25 this year, 52-35 over UCLA. And is that school just too hard to get into for old Chip Kelly to have success?
Who knows? I'm torn with USC. Obviously beat the crosstown rival. I'll be curious to see what happens with our head coach. I mean, there's a lot of people around the press now saying the guy's gone. They're 8-4. That's not an awful year. It's not a great year. I don't know. We'll see. I'm happy USC won. Obviously, that Slovis, that kid, man, for a third string quarterback, you kind of found a diamond in the rough. 37 of 47 for 515. I mean, there's besides his first road game of the year against BYU, which I bet him, unfortunately, the kid's really not had any bad games this whole year. He went through a couple of bumps, but the dude can play football. And offensively, he's put up about as good numbers as you can. So I'm happy from that regard. But I will be curious to see what we hear over obviously they're playing a game this week, but I think in that period of time between the end of the regular season and when they go to a bowl game, I think there's going to be all sorts of crazy hype and speculation about Clay Helton. And I won't be surprised if he was fired before then. I hope he's. I don't know. I've been so torn on this. I don't believe in the guy, but I think that if you're gonna fire him, you probably do it after the season. Who knows? Anyways, nice one by USC.
They're done too. They're 8-4. They're done. They were thinking that they were going to get to the Pac-12, so they got they got a bye. They're 8-4. They're done.
Oh, you're right.
I forgot about that.
True. Now, if Utah does lose their last game of the year, USC actually does go to the Pac-12 tournament or title because USC beat them. But I don't see that happening. But it's definitely a minor possibility. You're an outsider compared to
Colorado, right?
USC
They're playing
fan.
Colorado at home.
Yeah,
that's gonna be tough.
Well, let me ask you from an outside opinion because I'm obviously biased towards him. Do you think that he'll get fired, or what does your gut say, or maybe what you've heard? I know it's kind of been whispered about. Do you think Clay Helton survives the season, or you think he's gone? They're looking for Meyer or just anyone, I guess, at this point.
I think he's probably gone. They're not that far removed from having a damn good season.
True.
And they haven't had a lot of damn good seasons, right? So I don't know, I guess what I'd say is they better get a pretty damn good coach if they fire him. That's all I'm going to say. They better have something pretty much lined up, and it better not have anything to do with rowing a boat or anything like that.
I'm with you.
I'm not. They got 10 milli. I guess they can have them. They got it. And didn't they just get a new athletic director too? So he's probably going to want a new.
Yeah. That's
probably want a new crew or whatever. Who knows, though? Maybe he'll want to stabilize stuff and then feel it out. I guess it matters, the interest level. You know what I mean? That's really what it's going to be about. How many people call him? Because that's what it kind of comes down to. Like, not to make it about Minnesota, but Fleck actually contacted us. Before we could even contact him, because he knew. There were some issues going on with the scandal that turned out to be not a scandal at all, but you didn't know that at the time. So, it was, it matters. It matters who wants to come, I guess. But I could probably see him getting fired.
Yeah. Surprisingly, Chris, Mizzou lost again. Speaking of coaches, I wouldn't mind Odom leaving. That guy, it's never quite clicked for him with Mizzou. We got to beat Arkansas, which we should go to a bowl game, but a 6-6 year. Pinkel had the Hodgkin's lymphoma, unfortunately, and he just kind of left abruptly. But Odom's never really got to Missouri set in a way of how they used to be. They used to have a quarterback that was pretty much a guaranteed pro every year, and last 3 to 4 years and go pro, and a defensive line, which was always sending guys pro too. I know that D-line coach went to your school, the ULA, for a while, but man, Missouri used to be a pretty respectable team, and they won the SEC their first 2 years over there. And since then, it's just been a pretty tough time for Mizzou. So I'm hoping we figure out something. And lastly, to kind of wrap up my thoughts from this past weekend, I got lucky. I actually bet the first half under in a Big 12 game. I bet Kansas State, Texas Tech under because I was like, you know what? Those teams both have pretty good defenses. I think that this game should go under. So I bet under 27.5 for the first half of K-State, Texas Tech. The score was 6-3. I'm like, okay, that's a smart bet. Now in the second half, they scored 48
A
points.
lot.
So I'm happy. I'm happy I didn't get too cocky with myself.
Right.
The final score was 30-27, a little different than 6-3. But man, a nice win for K-State. You know, the former NDSU coach Kleiman, who obviously had a very good run for the FCS team he was with where I went to college, went up to K-State. I'm sure people there are thinking, who the hell are you? You're not Bill Snyder. You know, what are you going to come do to my program? And kind of like, someone protecting their kids. Like, okay, now easy, man. I'm not sure who you are. We got to trust you first. But they're 7-4 on the year. They've had a pretty good slate of wins. Obviously beat Oklahoma. That's a pretty good start for a situation, Chris. I could imagine going to coach a place where, you know, you don't have any ties, I don't believe, and you're taking over a statute figure. That's got to just maybe take you a while to get your feet wet. But he's had a pretty good year for all we can tell.
I'd say so. I think it's been pretty respectful, and I think that's a good fit for him, just recruiting-wise. I mean, you know, he actually takes a lot of Minnesota talent up there that, sure, they weren't, you know, when he was at North Dakota, of course I'm speaking of, or up in North Dakota, I should say. You know, yeah, I think that's a good fit, man. Recruiting-wise and everything like that, obviously he gets his players to play. He's gotten them, you know, to go pro as well. And from, you know, that usually doesn't happen from those small schools. A couple other items. You're right, though, 30-27. That was a tight game. There was a variety of tight games down the stretch. Washington State, Oregon State, 54-53, the over on that one. Same with Nevada and Fresno. I saw the end of that one, 35-28. Nevada got that one. Colorado beat Washington. It seems like anybody can beat Washington this year. They've really fallen down. And then Miami just laid an egg. I mean, they could have 9 wins this year, and that's not even being a fanboy. If I said 10 or 11, you'd know I was a fanboy. But I'd have been perfectly happy with 9-3, but that's not going to happen. It's been a disappointing year, no doubt about it. And that about wraps up things for Week 13. Week 14, of course, tomorrow night, the new rankings will come out. It'll be interesting to see what they do with Penn State. Minnesota better be over with Penn State if they have 2 losses. I don't care if the 2 losses is Ohio State, Minnesota. The head-to-head should, be the difference there, of course. But we have a variety of great matchups. Number 2 versus number 13. We got Ohio State and Michigan. One of the best rivalries in college football. The last year it was a blowout, but 2 or 3 years in a row, it came all the way down to the wire. Was it a first down? Was it not a first down? I still am wondering what the hell happened on that play. Number 5, Alabama. Number 15, Auburn. Obviously, that's a big game. Historically speaking, in the last 10 to 15 years especially, big game there. And huge game as far as up north in Minnesota. Number 10, Minnesota hosting number 12, Wisconsin. And I saw like 3.5, I believe. I'm looking at 2.5 like a day later. I saw just late last night someone put out a 4-point spread, and I thought I saw a 3.5, but it's down to 2.5 right now, favored to Wisconsin. So, that's Wisconsin's got that, got a little bit because it is at home, and then College Game Day is here for the very first time, so that'll be interesting as well. And then Oklahoma, number 9, against number 21, Oklahoma State. And they play pretty damn good at home. 13.5-point spread. Kind of interesting. Why don't we start with Ohio State, Michigan, and we'll go from there? Because this is, like I said, it's rivalry week. Sometimes the games are good just because of that. That emotion and, you beat us up last year. And that's kind of what I'm worried about Wisconsin. the Badgers got beat up by the Gophers last year. It was kind of in reverse the way the game played out. We ran the ball all over them, but I'd have to go. We'd have to go back to the '80s for the Gophers to beat Wisconsin back to back. So you got a lot of rivalry games. Well, we got rivalry games that are meaningful, obviously, but not just because of the rivalry, but nationwide here it makes sense too. Ohio State, Michigan. How do you see this one playing out? Vegas says 8 points, so that's with Ohio State on the road. It's the first time that I believe they've been on a road, and obviously, let me see that Wisconsin game. Yeah, it was home. So their toughest games, and they had Cincinnati at home too. They haven't been on the road yet in a tough environment. What says you about this one here?
I just, if you're betting the game, I just don't see how you can, I guess, believe in Harbaugh. I mean, I know his boys are playing good again, but he hasn't beat Ohio State yet. And I think from just looking on paper, clearly Ohio State's a better team this year. I know that Michigan has kind of got their ducks back in their same pond, but one of their big wins was against Rutgers. And okay, you beat Iowa where you won a game 10-3. Like, I know Michigan's getting it back together, but what performance have they had this year that really stood out? I guess, beating Notre Dame was just, I don't.
That's the one because they actually put up points, 45-14. Sure. That was the impressive one. Other than that, you're right. In Wisconsin just slapped them all around the field.
Yeah, so I think it'll be a close game. These rivalry games normally are, especially Ohio State, Michigan. They're normally never blowouts, but Ohio State's got the better quarterback. They got a better defense this year statistically. I'm not going to say they have a coaching advantage because, Day is only a head coach now for second year at Ohio State compared to Harbaugh's experience, but
sure.
But X's and O's are probably not a huge difference simply due to the fact that the skill level is pretty similar. But I just don't see how you can back Michigan. I'm not saying you couldn't maybe bet them and hope the game's close, but for picking a winner, I think you got to keep picking Ohio State until they actually ever beat, until he beats Michigan. And that's been the one hard knock on him. But in fairness, it's kind of like Carolina.
He's been great there. If you look at the last 10, 15 years of Michigan football, he's been great there. It's been consistently 9-10 and 11 wins. But you're right, man. The bad luck early and then the blowout last year against Ohio State is just that missing link.
Yeah, and again, I think Michigan's a lesser talented team. So I couldn't back Michigan again. Am I saying that this game's an impossible chance of an upset? No, not at all. But again, this isn't Michigan Rutgers. But I couldn't, unless I was like a diehard Michigan fan, I couldn't pick them to win or I couldn't bet them to win. You got to eventually end the streak at some point, but right. I don't think that streak ends this upcoming week.
Yeah, and you're right. The streak will end, and it started creeping in my head, Marshall. Like, you know what? This does have the makings of when it would still count, obviously, because, you'd want to spoil your rivalry's, season. But so I started thinking, man, this is going to be the year that they beat them when they can't go to the national championship because they have two losses. But that was until those turnovers in that game happened, and they were up 21-0, and I just don't see them back-to-back weeks turning the ball over like that. And we talk about stats from time to time. You bring them up, right? But, we also mention we preference it. You got to put it in context. So you look at schedules, who did they play against? Who have they played against lately? But bottom line is Michigan, since he's been there, has been known to just hard-nosed running the ball. And $155 is solid. Maybe people that are more into professional football, they go, wow, dude, 150, I'd take that. Yeah, but it's college football, so it's a little bit different. But it's 282 to 155. And I understand they got a running quarterback mostly too, but he does pass, dude. People keep saying this guy's oh, he's just a running quarterback. Okay, but I do know in this system, he has 33 touchdowns through the air and 1 pick. So if that's a pretty damn good running quarterback right there. You know what I mean? Like, weird, because the dude's throwing balls. Like, some are wide open, but that's college football. You know what I mean? It is what it is. So I'm with you. Like I said, if they would have, maybe it sounds ignorant or like, what are you talking about? What if they go on to blow out Penn State last week and they didn't have those turnovers? To me, something was just there. Like, maybe my point is, those turnovers would have happened next week and then it would have been a shocker. But I just don't see it. I don't see them back to back stumbling like that. Not to say they're going to get up 21-zip either. I'm not saying it can't be a good game. I think Vegas has got it in right around there, and we haven't seen this kid on the road per se either. So I think we got to put that in perspective as well. Alabama, speaking of going on the road, Alabama going on the road to Auburn. It's not a long bus ride, that's for sure, because they're both in Alabama. A lot of people don't realize that. That's hence the rivalry. No, the Iron Bowl is what they call it. I do remember, what was this, when Cam Newton was there watching that game and how ugly it was. We bet Alabama in the first half, and in the second half, Cam and the offense took over, ended up winning that game. That was the national championship game. I remember we were in Vegas right around that time. I believe it was me, you, and my brother, because that was also that Nevada-Boise State crazy game. I think it was right around that same time. Alabama, Auburn, on the surface you go, Auburn's just can't move the ball, dude. And that probably will be, or not, they can move the ball, they can't score the ball. And probably, that'll probably be the same, circumstance here. But there's no Tua. Is that going to play into things?
That's what I think is the fun part. And I do want to ask you an Alabama playoff question, but we'll save that as we wrap up the show.
No, they're not getting in. No, they're
kidding. Yeah, let's see what quarterback Mac has. Like, Auburn's defense is legit. They gave LSU about as tough of a game as possible. They did almost all they could against Georgia, but this Auburn quarterback Nix just isn't that good yet. Now, again, I do think, as I've said this a couple times this year, this was Gus Malzahn looking big picture. Probably thinking, hey, I'm going to start Nix this year, stick with the kid, win and lose. I can't change my mind. Next year, he'll be better. So I do think that's kind of a bigger down-the-road picture idea. But as college football fans and any senior on the Auburn team or whoever, you kind of want to win now. So will he be able to do enough against a defense in Bama that's, fortunately for him, not the best defense Saban's had? I do think that maybe you have a little bit of a better chance, Chris, to be competitive. I mean, if we're comparing apples and oranges together, like, he struggled against LSU's defense and struggled against Georgia, and now he's at home. I think the home helps because he wasn't at home for Georgia or LSU. So I think you're at home. I think Alabama's defense is probably obviously less skilled than Georgia and probably around LSU or a little bit less. So I think he maybe has a chance. I see it being a low scoring game. It's going to be like probably 10-0 Alabama to start off the game. And it's just going to be, can Bo Nix make a play? Because albeit, fair to say Tua's not here and this backup quarterback is not Tua, but Bama this year still has one of the best receiving cores in the country. I know they're not quite your Gophers, but
no, they are. They are the Gophers. Those guys are stud.
Bama's got some boys that
I'm not that ignorant to think that those guys aren't just as good.
So although Saban's defense isn't quite what it normally is, his offensive playmakers are pretty damn talented. So again, Tua, you can't replace Tua, but you're going to be slinging the ball up and down the field. So I would assume that Bama's probably going to score. If I had to pick and bet money on, I would think Bama's going to score about 20 points. With the way Auburn will play at home, I'm seeing Bama score 20. Now, Chris, can Auburn score more than 20 points? I don't think they can. What's your gut say? If we're going on my gut predictions that Bama scores 20, can Auburn score 3 touchdowns or 2 touchdowns and 2 field goals? Or, do they have the capabilities to pull it off? Or is it going to be another extremely frustrating game for an Auburn fan who has a defense playing their ass off this year with an offense that can't quite help them enough?
Well, they got the kick 6 play that they should unveil. That'll help put up some points. But
True.
That's a great question. And I do think that I think it's going to be about circa 2009, 2012, whatever, 2011, maybe that's the year they beat LSU. In the national championship, what was it, 21-0 or whatever? They were conservative as hell. So I do think they'll be conservative as hell, just trying to be like, hey, man, we're going to run it. We're going to be smart. It's going to be old school Alabama. Saban's first 5 to 6 years before he got some quarterbacks in there, and before he said, you know what, I gotta do something about this offense. And kudos to him. He has had a long, nice run now where they could put up points. But can they score? Auburn can score, just not against good teams. You know what I mean? That's what it's coming down to. I mean, they just put up 50 last week, right?
Yeah.
But you're right, not against good. It does have the makings of a very tight game, but it's funny you say that. I was going to say about 23-16 or 20-16 Alabama. But that's really what it comes down to. I think you detailed, like you put it right on the platter for me, and I'm going to say no. I'm going to say it's going to be 20-16 or 23-19 or some shit like that.
Yeah, it's just, and again, I could care less about Auburn. I'm not an Auburn fan, but to see their defense literally give you a chance in every game this year, when you have easily one of the toughest schedules in the whole country,
right?
God, it has to be frustrating to have your coach believe in this young kid. Because I mean, you think there's got to be a quarterback on roster with more talent, or maybe a little more just experience. Maybe not, but man, Auburn.
Well, he's a ball boy. He was a ball boy, Marshall. So come on, man. It's heritage, man. It's heritage, bro. No, but, his dad didn't even play there. He's a coordinator there, right? Pretty sure he's a coordinator. I don't think maybe his dad did play. I don't know. But either way, I remember that Knicks dude. Anyway, you know what? How many just horrible games have they had offensively so far? Can they mess up? You know what? Auburn's due. Auburn's due this year. I talked myself out of it, then in it. Then I'm going Auburn upset. I changed my pick. The game hasn't kicked off. The upset of the week is Auburn over Bama. And Bama, this will answer your question. Bama gets knocked out of that 4th spot, which they so wanted. They wanted to put them in there.
I mean, yeah, they played Florida, lost 24-13. And again, Florida has a great defense, but you got to score more than 13 points. Played LSU, you scored 20. That score's a little bit deceiving there at the end, but again, for the most of the game, you couldn't do anything on offense. You played Georgia, again, it took you very last chance at the end. You couldn't do much for offense. So can they finally have an offensive breakout game? But I'm
looking at it, it's going to be the turnovers and goofy plays too. I'm not even calling for them to put up 30 or nothing.
Yeah, because, I mean, we'll say what we want about Saban's defense. Saban's going to have a game plan set up because when you have a quarterback like Bo Nix against Saban, even if Saban's defense isn't quite high class as normal, they're probably going to scheme pretty well to slow down a guy who's been struggling. So,
all right, I'm going back now that you said that. Damn it. No, I'm just kidding. I'm staying.
Well,
so you're picking Bama then?
Yeah. I can't support Bo Nix. I can't do
it. Poor Bo Nix. I think it'll be okay though. Okay, here we go. According to ESPN's Football Power Index, I've been sleeping on this the last couple of weeks. I noticed that the Wisconsin Badgers, the Scotties, that's what we call them up here, Scotties, 60.8% chance to go into TCF Bank Stadium and beat my beloved Gophers 39-2. There's no draw there, no tie. So there's no prop bets on a tie. No, there is prop bets on a tie. It's coming down to the wire here. I've been talking to a couple of friends. We've been, through this whole season, and the last 4 games, I really wanted to be 2-2. That's before they beat Penn State and the Rose Bowl came into the picture. I was like, hey, but if they can go 2-2, so they went 2-2. No matter what, they can go 2-2, right? They got 10 wins. That was my big thing. A 10-win thing, go to a good bowl game, yada, yada, yada. But obviously the Penn State, like I said, opened up things. And then we have a solid loss at Iowa, right? So that's no big deal. They got to beat them back-to-back years. The last 2 Iowa, like first half Iowa and later in the game, Northwestern even. And some of it was, I don't know if we had our 100% starters out there. I believe we did, but, I think there was a linebacker or 2 out there. But some folks got out of position, and we gave up some chunk plays running. And that's not what you want to do. Now, I will say this. It's kind of strange. They don't have the explosive plays running like they normally do this year, but obviously they're piling up, the yards. I've been documented it all freaking year. Considering this guy is, playing for the damn Badgers, I've been giving this guy love, and why not? Dude's got 18 touchdowns, almost 1,700 freaking yards. So that's pretty impressive. But man, you can tell us a big game. Tickets as low as $250. It's funny. The Scotties are getting a little nervous, though. I'll say that. You know how you give the other team an allotment of tickets so they could sell them and whatnot? They returned 900 of them. They returned 900. So now all of a sudden they're like, oh, we don't want to go there and get beat for the first time in a long – come on, dude. Like, you guys have been destroying us for so long. Like, come on. But I'll take it. It's already sold out. Like I said, game day's here. It's a big one, man. And I've been talking to, like I mentioned, I kind of got lost there. I've been talking to friends, and we always saying this and that and this and that. And I'm like, dude, we're going to have to beat Wisconsin. We're going to have to go through them to get through the Big Ten West. I don't care where we're at. When they lost to Illinois and they're on Ohio State, it's like, oh, dude, no. They're not going anywhere, dude. They're going to be right there waiting for us. And sure enough, here we are. Well, what says you about this? And here I am. I can't even – my prediction is just worthless at this point because in my head I'm like – because I'm a fanboy of this pick, obviously. And in my head I'm like, well, I picked against the Gophers for the Iowa game and Penn State game. Should I not jinx them like as if that would jinx them? Should I not jinx them and pick against them? And then, I'm all over the place on this one. I'm going to let you take over the helm for a second.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really high-scoring game. I don't think that Michigan.
I like Michigan. The sounds of that.
Michigan. We're talking about Michigan football. Whoops. I don't think Minnesota's D-line is obviously going to slow down Taylor. I mean, that dude. You don't get 200-yard games over and over again by a joke. And I would say, whether it be out of Minnesota's offensive talented players, Minnesota's offensive line, Minnesota's secondary, I think, would it be fair to say your D-line is probably the weakest part out of like all the basic parts of a team? Is that a fair assessment?
It is. However, they played a lot better than we thought this year. But yes, the linebackers, they are senior ridden, and then the secondary's legit. So yeah, I'd have to agree with that.
So, I mean, unfortunately, your one weak part of your team is going against the other team's strength. But in fairness to the Gophers, I think it'll be high scoring. And a Badger friend told me, he said that he thinks that the Badger secondary is weaker than normal, which is huge for y'all because obviously the strongest point of your team is having an incredibly accurate quarterback whose numbers of accuracy are just as good as Joe Burrow. In some games, been better this year. I know not quite the talented competition, but
right.
You have an extremely accurate quarterback with one of the best receiving cores. So, I guess it simply comes down to who's going to shine more, the Badger running game or the Gopher wide receivers. And I just think you just offensively have to do the best you can to pregame prep. And, the Gophers got to just hammer the Badger quarterbacks, and the Badgers got to run the ball as much as they can versus the Gophers. So I think when it's that close to the game, obviously the home field advantage is huge. That place against Penn State, that I don't recall a game ever quite being like that.
And it won't be half full with Badger fans like it normally is.
Yeah, I actually went to the Badger Gopher game, I think about 3 to 4 years ago now. And it was pretty close to being half. It was also cold as shit. So I'm hoping it was not a freezing game. And it was a night game too.
It's 30. It calls for 35 degrees, but snow. And that's what I'm afraid of with the passing and running game. A high-scoring game, I'll take that. You want to line up? Okay, let's line up. But, man, I'm not really a big fan of wind right now.
Yeah, I'm with you. That we got to hope for the weather gods because, I want the Gophers to win. I think this ride has been so incredible. I love PJ Fleck. Obviously, it's cool to see a team who's been struggling for so long have such a great year. But, yes, the weather bug would definitely hurt you. Because if the Badgers like, it's raining and snowing, we have to run the ball. Okay, let's give it to our workhorse for 30 or 30 runs. Meanwhile, the Gophers, as you mentioned, it's hard to feed your talented star wide receivers if it is snow coming down in the wind. I hope for the sake of the Gophers that it is even if it's cold, that's fine. Just have it where you can throw. Now, I'm not saying it's impossible the Gophers win if it's a snowy, windy day, but you're right, Chris. That would be a huge, just kind of bad luck omen for your guys. And the Gophers would really have to focus on their ground game. And the Gophers actually have a pretty good running game this year, but I think it's been beneficial due to the fact that you can't load the box against the Gophers this year.
It's true. That's very true.
If you load the box against the Gophers, you're okay. But now you're putting your DBs on an island against some wide receivers going pro. So I like the Gophers to win. I'm hoping it's good weather. I think that just with the momentum, how big of a game it is, the head coach, I just think everything's leaning that way. I like their chance, and I guess we'll just agree that hopefully it's a decent weather day, so the Mother Nature doesn't really affect your offensive game plan, you could say.
And just because I don't want to, this is just the biggest fanboy pick ever, but it's actually not. It's the opposite of fanboy, but I'm cluster effed in my head, basically. I'm not a fanboy because I'm picking the Badgers, but it's such a stupid pick because, I'm not going to jinx anything. No one on the team, PJ Fleck's not listening to this podcast. But I have to do it for some odd reason. I have no clue why. I picked them against them, so I'm going to pick against them in a tight game. But like I said, if it is a high-scoring game, I definitely like them there. I'd expect them to run blitz. You know what I mean? That's what I think it will be, run blitz. That way you can protect some of that. The screen game might get pretty bad too. But I think it's like containment. Can we have them get to 127 yards? On 19 carries. So they had a couple of good drives of great runs, maybe broke off a 20, 30, 40-yarder, but in the end, they didn't completely destroy him. And the secondary's damn good. So I think that will play into it. But yeah, it's a pick'em type game, no doubt about it. And like I said, I think we'd have to go back to the 80s to actually find a time where the Gophers beat them back to back. Let's pick up the pace here because we are getting long. We're over an hour already. Oklahoma, we got two other big ranked teams, Cincinnati, Memphis. I like Memphis in a fun game. I think Cincinnati's just been getting by with so many tight games. I think that time's up, but I don't know the over-under, but I'm going over. And also then Oklahoma at Oklahoma State. I do like Oklahoma in this one. But speaking of over, I think that this thing is going to be there's going to be some points put up. Oklahoma State's not quite where they've been as far as point total offensively. but I do think this will be an entertaining game with Oklahoma winning.
Yeah, and he's maybe not quite put up numbers like Taylor, but that Chuba Hubbard for Oklahoma State, a cool name to say. That dude had like 8 games in a row of over 200 rushing yards. So you got a guy that can really run the ball against Oklahoma's defense. Okay, it's going to be the Jalen Hurts versus the Chuba Hubbard who can run the ball better game. I think that's how it's going to be. And I think Oklahoma wins, but I would definitely not bet on them just because they've really shown they're not good at covering this year. This is a team that for some reason enjoys getting up in the first half of a game and then running the ball religiously with a quarterback. So I think Oklahoma finds a way to win, but I think it's a back and forth, kind of the last team to have the ball is going to score, probably up in the 40s, kind of game. Because obviously if you are Oklahoma, you're still playing for an outside chance of making the Final Four and, obviously holding on to your spot and, going for the Big 12 title game. But yeah, I would lean Oklahoma. And if there's any type of a prop bet you can find of Jalen Hurts carries, if it's anything like 20 or under, just bet the over. He's probably going to run the ball 25 games 25 times this week, just because that seems to be their MO this year.
And then Memphis, Cincinnati. I like Memphis, like I said, but I do think Cincinnati can sneak under that. What is it, 10 something? I think it's 10.5 points or something like that. I think they can sneak under that. But that's going to be a good game.
Well, yeah, and it's kind of weird, too, for that because there's a good chance that those teams are going to just replay each other for the conference championship the following week. Again, I know that Memphis' quarterback, Brady White, has incredible stellar numbers, but he's actually facing a really good defense this week. So there's no way I'm taking Memphis minus 11. I think they'll be able to score, but he's going to make a couple of interceptions. And I think Cincinnati's quarterback is worse than Memphis's. So that tells you what I think about both the quarterbacks. But I would definitely take Cincinnati plus the 11 points. I think you're giving up way too many. I know it's in Memphis, and Memphis is a hell of a home team, and they've put together another tremendous year. That Mike Norvell from Memphis, I think it's only really a matter of time until a team steals him away. They're obviously they're not the Bama, LSU, Ohio State kind of caliber, but Memphis for about the past 3 to 4 years has been a top 20 ranked team that almost wins their division every year. So I think it's a matter of time until that dude's, leading a team in the Pac-12 or the Big 12 or SEC. If I was AD, I'd be trying to steal him. So I'll take Cincinnati with the 11, just because I can't take that many points with Memphis. Oh God, Missouri has to win to get bowl eligible. If we lose to Arkansas, I hope they fire Odom on the spot. Like leave him at the airport like they did to Lane Kiffin on the tarmac firing. Mizzou's minus 12. Arkansas is in disarray, but please, Missouri, do not lose to the Razorbacks, because that would be a really sad way for your season to end.
Yeah, and that's like the best way to infuse Lane Kiffin's name. That story that he got left on the tarmac. I love that way. Could you do that everyone? That'd be sweet.
Speaking of that, man, if they win, he wins his division conference and he's playing for a Conference USA championship again. Go Owls, go Owls. Lane Kiffin doing his thing again.
Yeah, all they need is a quality win under his watch. But anyway, some games that are under the radar that'll be just good, you want to keep an eye on them come third and fourth quarter. The game will be on the table is what I'm saying. Doesn't really matter with this game, but Mississippi State, if one of the, if the night game or the late afternoon Thanksgiving game is garbage, you may want to just check this one out. Texas Tech in Texas. Texas a 10-point favorite. Flyer, put a flyer out on that one. Here's another flyer. Virginia Tech is having a damn good year. I've mentioned it a couple of times. They're going on the road to Virginia, 3-point favorites at Virginia. That's kind of interesting there. That'll be a really, really good game, though. I guess Washington State will be fun. I actually like Washington State, even though Washington's a 7-point favorite. I mean, I don't know, dude. I'm not really sure what's going on there. Washington State's not great this year by any stretch. We knew this was like a rebuilding year, but I don't know, man. The way they just got beat by Colorado. And, you know, what is it? Bieniemy's not on the squad, dude. So, and who was that quarterback a couple years back? I can't remember, but he's not coming through that door either. He's not taking snaps or anything like that. So that could be a pretty damn good game. West Virginia, we've talked about that, how they're both TCU and West Virginia is kind of finishing with pride. 12-point favorites at home. You never know because TCU's put up that good performance, then bad performance. Hardcore barn burner here. Purdue and Indiana. Indiana, 7-point favorite. Not that Purdue's great, but hey, they're not that garbage. That's going to be a barn burner. I'd probably go the over, not even looking at the over-under. I was going to give you an upset of the week right now, but I already did. I'm already picking Auburn as my upset of the week. There's one more game in here. Oh, Oregon State and Oregon. Okay, I think Oregon's going to bounce back, but they're favored by 19. So just a heads up, you may want to take a flyer on that one. One more game to talk about, then I'll flip it to you to finish it off. A ranked Iowa State team, and I'll say it again, a ranked Iowa State. If you've been listening to the show this year, they're not as good ranked. They're going into Kansas State there in Manhattan, Kansas. 4.5 points favorite. That should be a pretty damn good game.
If you enjoy watching a boring game of football, Florida does play Florida State. Most of the time in our previous show, we will always cover that game. But this year, with as abysmal as Florida State's been, now would it be a good game to watch? On Saturday night, sure. Utah, they play Colorado. They're a 28-point favorite. I expect Utah to remain in the Final Four contention because I don't see them slipping up. They have too good of a head coach, and they're at home. The Tar Heels play the Wolfpack in a basketball game that's normally pretty good. But one thing to look for this week when you're gambling on games is teams that can become bowl eligible. Carolina is 5-6. Wolfpack are 4-7. So just strictly from a motivational standpoint, Chris, where like the biggest thing you have left going for you is a bowl game. I love Carolina to win just because all you need to motivate them for is, guys, let's make our season 3 weeks longer. And I remember you mentioning last year, how big of a deal it is for your team to get those extra 12 practices, legally from the NCAA. If you make it to the bowl game, that gives you, I believe it's 12 to 13 additional practices that make your team so much better. So if you're Carolina, I'll make that one of my gambling picks. Carolina minus the 8, just with the bowl game motivation to win. We've seen how much that benefited your Gophers, and hopefully that happens for the Baby Blue. We'll soon be talking about the Baby Blue Tar Heels in a couple of months. But besides that, you've hit on it. With all the rivalry games, 9 out of 10 times, even if the point spread is 20 points or whatever it is, it's going to be a fun game.
I don't know about 9 out of 10, but I hear you.
Maybe 75% of the time you watch a rivalry game, it's enjoyable to watch. Now, there are going to be some smackdown blowouts, but most of the time when you got school against school, kids know each other, there's hatred, rivalry on the line, you're going to get a pretty enjoyable game. Washington State's almost always a fun one. Oregon State, the Civil War. I know Oregon normally wins them, but it's still normally pretty fun games. Obviously, Bama, Auburn, it says enough there. And, yeah, so it should be an enjoyable weekend of football. You get the special treatment of the games Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So, and you got college basketball tournaments. It's a beautiful weekend of football, Chris. But you really did hit on all the main games. Florida Atlantic, Lane Kiffin does play Southern Miss. We're a 9-point favorite at home. I expect us to keep taking care of business. But, yeah, I think we hit on the main ones, and even if we hit on a main game, if it's a rivalry week and you got something to watch, it should be pretty fun. But, yeah, if you're looking for bets, if any team has 5 wins, try to follow them along, put some money on them because they should have an extra angle of motivation that a lot of other teams aren't going to have.
Yeah, that's a great angle. I like that detail, and you can back it. I'll give you a little bit more dig into it. Check their last 2 to 3 games. Late momentum. The Gophers did it last year. You see that too. Okay, well, they've won 2 out of the last 3. Okay, this is really meaningful for them. That's a good call. I like that. I really like that. All right, let's get to the crappy pick of the week. Why don't you explain the rules here, sir?
Yeah, unfortunately, last week, Mia Khalifa's alma mater with Ed Hockley, and I believe Tim Hardaway, they let us down.
But I told them. I told them it was an emotional pick and go the other way, so they should have listened to me either way.
I believe that makes us 8-5 on the year. This is my favorite part of the show. I look for 2 garbage teams playing each other. This week, we're going back to the well again, but this really is the worst matchup of the week. I hate to have repeat offenders, and I really want to give the Michigan State-Maryland game, but it's a 22-point spread, and even though Michigan State does suck, Maryland sucks even worse.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I can't go there, but we're going back to Texas. The Rice Owls, who are 2-9 on the year, are going to UTEP. I know the Miners were just on our show. We're going back to Mia Khalifa's alma mater again.
Oh boy, they just burnt me. This squad just burnt me.
It is the worst game on the board this week. So we got the Miners, we got the Owls, we have people swinging pickaxes, hard working blue collar men working in mines with owls flying over their head. They're swinging axes. The Rice is favored by 7, so we have a 7-point favorite.
So the road dog is not the dog.
No, it is a road favorite. It is in the Sun Bowl. I believe we've actually used UTEP now 3 times this year. I should start keeping track so we can look back over the years on how many teams make their appearances. A 2-9 versus a 1-10. I'm not going to mention the FPI because I don't believe in that crap, and I know you'll get to it later. Seats are only $20. This game is on my birthday. Saturday is my birthday. Last year on my birthday, I had to coach a basketball game and I got beat by 63 points. This year, we're not playing a top state team. We're having a practice. So I don't think my practice will go that bad on my birthday. I probably won't watch this game at 2:00 on ESPN3, but maybe if I'm bored. Chris, take it away. The Miners against the Owls in a beautiful matchup to wrap up the regular season crafty crap pick of the week. We will go with some bowl games for this segment because there are some shitty bowl games. But for now, regular season matchup. What do you feel, brother?
The Sun Bowl, hey, at least it's respectable that way. Hey, and you can tell it's Texas. Tickets low as $20. Northwestern was selling their tickets on Vivid Seats for $3 for the Gophers game. I was kind of pissed. It's like, damn. And plus, it's like high school. It's like Texas high school stadiums. Like, it's a small stadium. You'd be right on the field, basically. Well, this does fit in that realm. Rice has too good of a defense, only giving up 26.8. But then again, they make up for it by only scoring 16.8. I didn't realize that. Yeah, okay, that makes up for it. Neither of them can stop the run or the pass. Yeah, this is the worst game of the week. There's just no way around it. Even the names and everything like that. The Sun Bowl, as we know, has been, a decent bowl for quite some time. But so there's no fun name to poke fun at there. But whenever I see a quarterback that has under 1,000 yards passing right now with one game left, and the other one's only at a little less or a little over 1,200, and that guy has 5 touchdowns and 5 picks, I know these teams suck. Wow. Yeah, this is pretty bad, dude. But what stands out to me, first of all, UTEP burnt me, so I'm pissed. Okay, so maybe this is a little emotional. But they give up 36 points a game. And I like some of the non-conference work that Rice put in, they weren't just, messing around. These are the Owls, after all. And they just held off North Texas, which means something, damn it. Yeah, I'm going to go Rice Owls on this one. I'm going Rice Owls. And, these Miners are going to, dig up something on me and somehow get it done. But I don't think so. I think this week, the home team has been the theme this year. In fact, I'd probably have 9 wins if I just did that. But that's not happened. In years past, it's been the road dog. This is not that either. So, yeah, I'm going the Rice Owls to get this done here, sir.
Okay. And just to kind of go along with our theme of last week, I just want to do one quick thing. I'm going to look at famous Rice alumni. We got Lance Berkman. Okay, we got a former MLB first baseman. My boy, Anthony Rendon, should have been MVP of the National League, was basically the MVP for
they got
my
a hell of a
Washington
baseball
Nationals all
program
year.
there. I know that. They got a hell of a
do.
baseball program.
Got Howard Hughes, so a former businessman from way back in the day. He's got a black and white photo. And then we got a bunch of people I'm not sure who they are. It looks like we have a couple of political news reporter people just from judging from their photo. And oh boy, it gets tough and dicey after this. Brock Holt, a former or actually current Boston Red Sox, and that's Tyler Duffy, a twin. So we got a twin and a national, Chris. How can't we back the Rice Owls?
Good call.
And Anderson Sandejo, but I heard that guy's a prick, so I'm not going to really support him. So
I heard he doesn't wrap up either, but whatever. I'm not talking
so
that.
You're talking about his tackling in the secondary is not that good. Okay, well, and we got me and Khalifa going on there too. So interesting. So we wrap up another splendid edition of the crafty pick of the week. You're guaranteed good football this weekend. It's rivalry weekend. Some team with a bad record is going to upset their huge favorite rival. It's a guarantee to happen. Kick your feet back and up. We got football Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Obviously, most people probably watch football on Sunday and Monday as well. Enjoy your weekend.
Don't fill up on the buns. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, if you go to Texas Roadhouse, stay away from all their buns. That food's so good, but don't eat like 4 of them because you can't enjoy your steak. So enjoy a hopefully very blessed, enjoyable family time together. Hopefully it's not too cold where you're at. If so, just buy beer, stay inside the house and watch football. The boys are going to be out tonight. Have a great night. We appreciate our listeners as always. Have a good night. Peace.